There's so many wonderful reasons not to build light rail, it's hard to pick which one to begin. So let's start with the 2-mile, 160-foot bridge that Sound Transit is proposing to carry light rail from SoDo over here to Delridge. No bridge like this has ever been built on Earth. So you might recall that Western Washington doesn't have such good luck with bridges. We've sunk floating bridges. We've trashed a Tacoma suspension bridge. The unique design for the West Seattle High Bridge broke. And it took 2.5 years to get that thing back together. Now, I don't know what kind of luck they're going to have with a 2-mile, 160-foot bridge that's never been built or designed yet, but they're also building it over the Seattle Fault. So it doesn't feel like safe ground to put a bridge on, especially if you're not sure the bridge is going to function because it's a new design that's never been tried. Another reason to not build light rail is the cost. And at this point, at $7 billion for 4 miles of track, Sound Transit will be spending $250,000 per rider to get a passenger on the train. So that cost is going to drop, if you believe their ridership numbers, over the years, down to a plateau of about $600 per rider. Metro Transit told us they will cancel a route if it costs more than $10 per rider. So basically, we are spending enough for 60 bus routes, anywhere from 60 bus routes to 2,500 bus routes, just to get people 4 miles on the train. The Puget Sound Regional Council has forecasted in 2050, adding this 4-mile stub of light rail will reduce congestion in the county by 0.02%. That's negligible. You won't even be able to notice the difference because we built this entire county for cars, not for rail. And to try and reorganize the entire county, all the multi-millions of people who live in this county, to squish themselves into a line along the railroad is, well, fantasy at the best and insanity at the worst. So let's be practical. Let's just be practical. Let's look at what do we got, what resources work the best. Let's look at the data. Let's look at where people live. Let's look at how areas of commerce and employment are diversifying. Let's look at 35% of Seattle is working from home. They're not even getting on the bus. So given all that, you know, it's like if it's a bad idea, then let's not do it. There's several shortcomings to light rail. The first of them is your rider experience is going to get worse. Instead of having a 1-seat ride, no transfers between here and downtown on a bus, you're going to have to transfer from a bus to light rail in West Seattle, then transfer from rail to another rail at SoDo, then transfer to wherever you want to go downtown. So that's at least 2 transfers, maybe 3, instead of 0. Transit use is driven by delivering people to centers of employment and commerce, more than by density. So as those centers of commerce diversify, as more people work from home, then the whole purpose of light rail goes away. What you need to feed more diverse areas with distributed employment and commerce is more flexible transit. And that flexible transit is buses. People have said, why don't we do something why don't we do it like New York? Why don't we do it like Washington, D.C.? The population density of those two cities is well, D.C. is 11,500 people per square mile. New York is about 17,000 people per square mile. Seattle is 600 people per square mile. So what are we building? A system to serve 20 times as many people for $7 billion when we could use buses. I mean, the money that they're spending could electrify the entire Metro Transit fleet and buy them, I forgot that, 500 electric buses, actually more than 500 electric buses. It doesn't make any sense to build a system for 10,000 people per square mile. What it makes sense to do is find out where those people live and use smaller, more flexible, more nimble rolling stock buses, vans, to get to them and bring them where they need to go. I mean, like I said, what drives transit use is delivering people from where they are to where they want to go. Employment, commerce. If you can't deliver them there, then there's no reason for transit. Anybody in any real estate transaction is going to try and lowball the buy. And that's what Sound Transit is doing. If there's market rate, they're going to go for the least possible market rate they can pay to any homeowner. The same thing with the businesses. The businesses are not going to get any more than 30 to 40% of what they need to relocate. Some of them are going to get up to 60%. It depends. Sound Transit is dealing behind the scenes individually with different businesses. But the bottom lines are, first, none of these businesses is going to get enough to relocate and reopen successfully without going deep into their pockets. And if they can't go deep into the pocket, then they go out of business. Second item is that if this light rail is built and if all those businesses are displaced, transit won't be available to take people to the new locations. So they're going to have to rebuild their businesses in new locations thanks to Sound Transit erasing their business where they were established already. Well, the residents are going to have to go somewhere. Now, I can't tell you how many people I've talked with who said, boy, if I had to buy my house today, I couldn't afford it. So they're going to sell out here, not be able to afford anything else in West Seattle, and where are they going to go? So I think it's kind of ironic that the people that Sound Transit's going to depend on as riders, they're getting rid of now. Sound Transit has eliminated 140 acres of forest for the north-south rail line so far. For West Seattle, they want to eliminate 3 acres of forest plus do irreparable damage to the habitats. And this is not my words. These are the draft environmental impact statement words of Sound Transit itself. So irreparable damage to ecosystems, acres of forest and green space gone, and we breathe the oxygen that stuff produces. We depend on the carbon sink. We depend on the erosion control. We depend on the shade for heat islands, to shield heat islands. And Sound Transit's removing it all. And I don't know why nobody, all these commenters and all these angry people who want rail, are not mentioning the environment. I don't know why they're not mentioning the carbon footprint. I don't know why they're not mentioning the loss of forests and ecosystems, the loss of erosion control, and Sound Transit hasn't even calculated how much it'll cost to replace all the things that they are erasing from nature. How are they going to replace the erosion control? How are they going to replace carbon sink? How are they going to replace oxygen production? How are they going to shade? How are they going to offer shade to neighborhoods that are going to lose their shade because they're cutting all the trees? Where are the people who are concerned about our future? I'm not seeing them for some reason. All I'm seeing is people who are concerned about how they get to work tomorrow. Peter Rogoff, who was the CEO of Sound Transit, in 2012 in Boston at a transportation conference said, part of the reason that transit agencies are so over budget is because they're putting their money into light rail that isn't appropriate for most of the cities that are trying to build it. They do better to just stick with buses. That's the former CEO of Sound Transit. 20 years before that, I was interviewing the deputy director of U.S. Department of Transportation in Washington, D.C., who said, you know, the reason that these transit agencies are going over budget is because of light rail. And they don't need light rail. It's inappropriate for most of them, but they think it's glitzy and it's world class, so they want to build it. The politicians want to do it. All the data people, all the transit wonks say it's not appropriate for most of the country. The light rail package includes an escape clause. It's called Section 2. And that allows the board to do anything they want regardless of what the voters voted for. And the board has used that twice. They use it because the project is either unaffordable, infeasible, or unbuildable, or all three. In this case, West Seattle Light Rail is all three. It's unaffordable because now, instead of $1.7 billion, which we voted for in 2016, it's $7 billion. It's unbuildable because they have to punch through acres of forest, create irreparable damage to habitats, create a carbon footprint that can't be mitigated, put 100 businesses out of business and lose up to 1,000 jobs, wipe out people's homes that they've planned on living in for the rest of their lives. So, unaffordable, unbuildable, infeasible.